Today, I'm going to cover the number one objection I get anytime I'm selling a 20, 30, 40, 50K coaching offer that's out there. You might think of it at those price points. The biggest objection that you're going to get is I can't afford it, but it's actually something else that I actually call the special snowflake objection. I'll walk you through how you need to start handling it, whether people are calling it out or not. It's the reason that you might get those people coming back and say, this is not the right time for me. I don't have the money for this, any number of things. But if you don't address this objection, you're ultimately not going to get the type of high ticket sales. You're not going to fill up your mastermind. You're not going to fill up that one-to-one program or that group program that you have at those higher price points. So this is the first time joining one of my lives. I'm Brian Czekanski, and I help coaches and experts in particular 10x their high ticket sales by doing that all via email, DMs, and a variety of other structures without using any sales calls whatsoever. So I'm having one-to-one sales conversations, primarily dealing with all those leads that my partners, sales teams, all those leads that they've given up on. So those are the type of leads I want to have interactions with. All those people, like, especially if you are paying Zuckerberg or Google to generate leads on a monthly basis, you probably have those leads that are going through your sales process and are just kind of falling off. Your sales team kind of gives up on them after 15 days or 30 days. Those are the people that I want to engage with, reactivate, bring them back into a sales conversation, and ultimately close them for you without any upfront investment whatsoever or any risk whatsoever. So obviously I only work with a select number of partners. So you have to fit a certain criteria. But again, for you, it might be 5 or 6 figures in terms of revenue and potential profits, bringing back in the four, all the money that you spent and given to Zuckerberg or, again, Google, that I can reactivate and get back in and bring that forward. So today we're talking about kind of the key objections. I would call it kind of the number one objection that I find all the time. And a lot of this kind of goes back to my own history, but most people think that they are a special snowflake, that their situation is completely unique, that nobody is dealing with the problems that they're dealing with along the way. And this becomes even more of prevalent when you're dealing with high ticket type of sales. So, more personalized, more done for you type of, one-to-one or mentoring, like whatever it is, even in masterminds, everybody's going to come to you and say, like, you've never seen a situation like mine before. Or the example I'll share today and kind of walking you through is working with a marriage coach that I have for the last few months. Everybody that comes to me says my spouse is more stubborn or is less agreeable to getting help than any other person. And what I do to kind of address those objections, I'll walk you through in a simple process as we go through. So, like, your job, especially if you're a coach or expert, if you've got a sales team, you're a high ticket closer yourself. We want to we kind of want to understand what their situation is, number one, but also kind of let people know, like, hey, your situation is unique, but this coach or this expert has helped people just like you and probably with even more extreme situations. So, like, your situation seems like super extreme, but let me give you an example of somebody that he or she has helped that is even more extreme than you. So before I get to that, let me start with, like, how do I get in front of, how do I do some of that pre-selling to make sure some of these objections are being handled beforehand, the special snowflake objection. So first thing I do is kind of, again, as much as possible, kind of personalize my language, that first email that I go out to them with, and let them know that I really understand their situation. So this takes a good amount of effort on me. Anytime I sign up with a partner, I'm going to ask them can I speak with 5 or 10 of your current and past customers? And I'm going to really understand, like, okay, who are the different avatars that you have on your list, and how can I speak a little bit more specifically to some of those avatars, to some of those, the segments on their list. And by segmenting the list into maybe 4 or 5 different categories, what I can do there is use a little bit more specific language. So I can really call out that person that feels like a special snowflake, and I can use the words, the phrases, the situations that they are most familiar with, and I can call them out. And in doing so, they're going to finally they're going to feel really comfortable. They're going to finally find, like, okay, like, this person understands me. Like, in a world where nobody seems to understand me, like, this person starts to understand me. And that's not going to get over the complete objection, but it's going to start to lay the groundwork in terms of, okay, how can I, even before I get to the offer, how can I get to the point where they feel a lot more comfortable in signing up? So again, kind of speaking their language and kind of speaking to the moments in their day. So nobody's in pain 24 hours a day, but if I can speak to kind of those, those specific moments where their problem is at its height, that will kind of emotionally stir them up, but also let them know, like, okay, like I know what I'm talking about. I dealt with people just like you before. So I know you think your situation is unique, but I've helped people just like you. And the way I'm proving that is by speaking their language, using those exact words and phrases and all those things that they're ahead. I'm kind of articulating really in particular. So that's the first part is kind of like, I understand you, you're in a safe place. You finally come to the right place of somebody that, again, you think your situation is unique, but I understand you more than most. So that's the first part. The second part, in terms of breaking down these, special snowflake objections. So anybody that comes to me and, says my situation is super unique, I do spend a good amount of time and really digging into like, what is it? What is it about your situation that you think is so unique? And that once I have that information, again, even before I put the offer in front of them, that qualifying process, in the same way you do it on a sales call, I'm doing it via one-to-one email or DMs. I'm going back and forth and really digging up a lot of that detail in terms of like, okay, what's your situation? Where do you want to get to? You're sitting on Hell Island. Do you want to get to Heaven Island? What does that look like? And why do you think your situation is so unique? And what are all those things that you've tried in the past? And why do you think those things haven't worked for you? And again, a lot of times they'll come back to you and say like, hey, my situation is different. It wasn't the right, like I was trying to put a square peg in a round hole type of thing. So really just understanding like what are the unique nuances of what they're going through right now is a huge to getting to the, kind of the final point that I'm looking for. And what has really worked successfully for me is really finding those testimonial stories, almost like the more extreme testimonial story that I can go back to. And it doesn't always, it's not always the case where I can find that perfect match of that testimonial that fits in with them. But a lot of times what I'll do is, especially with these coaches and experts, especially if they have a similar story to that person, that's a big leverage point. So again, that would kind of be one of the key starting points is like, for that person that I'm partnered with, do they have an element of their story that I can kind of bring to light a little bit more detail, that transformational story of how they were dealing with something similar. Again, how can I let them know that their situation is not as unique as they think it was? And I can talk through kind of that coach and expert and kind of start to build that relationship with them and say like, hey, this coach and expert that I'm representing has actually gone through similar things as you, and give them a little bit more detail. Like, here's exactly what he or she went through. Here was kind of that transformational journey. And here were some of those breakthrough moments. And here's how the breakthrough moments have kind of are incorporated in terms of this process or this program or whatever offer that I am putting in there. Again, I would probably share a lot of this, and I do share a lot of this even before I get to the offer. So a lot of this is kind of ingrained. So like I'm kind of building up the foundation of belief of like, okay, you think your situation is unique, you think you're a special snowflake, but hey, let me share you a story about from this coach or expert, maybe a particular moment or a transformation that he was able to have. That's one step of it. And then I bring through, and I spend a lot of time with their current and past clients, really figuring out like a diverse group of like, okay, how can I build this diverse group? I'll jump through all their sales pages. I'll jump through all their websites and really catalog based on the avatars and segments that I have come up with. How can I create as long a list of testimonials as possible? And what that does is that gives me a lot of ammunition to come back to, again, this person that thinks they're a special snowflake and say like, hey, I know you think your situation is completely unique. I know you think your situation is worse than what anybody else has dealt with in their entire life. But let me introduce you to, again, in the ideal situation, let me introduce you to 3 or 5 people just like you. Let me detail their story for you, how they were in their exact situation as you, or maybe a similar situation as you. That's maybe even a little bit more extreme. So for me, I'm looking for that testimonial where it's like, hey, you're dealing with this pain, but like, let me introduce you to this person that had it way worse than you. And this person was able to get results within a very short period of time by working with my coach and expert. And along the way, I'm kind of sharing the process. Like, what was the process like for them? What were kind of some of those key victories along the way? So I'm not just saying like, okay, he was in this situation, got to that dream scenario overnight. So I really want to set expectations of like what working with this coach and expert is like, so that they don't come in and kind of expect results overnight. They want to see it as a process. So I want to kind of build in the steps of the process, kind of the stepping stones to getting to where they want to be. I'm using those testimonials along the way, again, using those exact words and phrases. So hopefully those testimonials, as much as possible, share that same language that they're talking about in terms of that situation. They're speaking to the dream scenario that this person wants along the way. Again, if those three, like, ideally, those 3 to 5 testimonials that I share should be at least as like, they should be a little bit more extreme if possible. Like, that's where I can really knock down that special snowflake type of objection. Like, you think your problems are bad. Like, let me introduce you to somebody that has had it, 10 times worse, but that person was able to get results with this coach and expert. So I don't say it outright, but I can kind of say like, hey, if this person was able to do it, like, your situation is probably not as bad. Like, again, something I don't clearly let this out, but like, I want to create the perception of like, if somebody was in a way worse situation than yours, was able to get the results that they were looking for within a reasonable amount of time, here was the stepping stones to getting there. Like, if this person could do it, or these series of people can do it, there's no reason you can't do it. And again, what I'm doing along the way is kind of breaking down that belief that my situation is so unique that nobody can get me results, or breaking down that skepticism of, I don't know that this is going to work for my unique situation, by giving them proof points. Again, I ideally want that coach and expert to have some element of their story that I can speak to, but also pairing that up with testimonials, and along the way, really speaking their language and the words, the phrases, the moments, to let them know that they're in the right place, that this is different than anything else that they've tried in the past. Because for a lot of these people, again, especially in the high ticket space, they've taken courses, they've done plan, they've tried everything in a lot of different instances, and there's a high degree of skepticism. So I want to let them know what's different here, and use those proof points for the coaches or expert story, but also, again, at least 3 to 5 testimonials that kind of speak to like, hey, your situation is not as bad as you think. Here's all the people that this coach or expert has worked with, just like you. He's able to, like, maybe their progress, maybe their process, maybe the benefits that they got along the way were a little bit different, but I'm going to lay it out for you in the exact language that they would use as much as possible. And that's why I really jump on the phone with people, like jump on their past clients and current clients, because you typically don't have the right testimonial videos and written testimonials that you're looking for. That's where I dive a little bit deeper in terms of like, okay, like, where were you starting from? What were some of those extreme moments? What was your process like for getting results? And what does that end dream life look like for you? And how, like, again, as much as possible, I go back to those current and past clients and say like, hey, what were some of your objections? What were some of your hesitations? Like, did you feel like a special snowflake when you first met this coach and expert? And how did you get over some of that stuff? So that's an easy way for me to like, I actually go back, and I know that, these current and past clients probably had that same objection of like, hey, I've got a really unique situation. I'm a special snowflake. I don't know that this coach and expert can help me. I go back to those current and past clients and say like, hey, what would you tell? Like, I know you probably had that objection. Like, what would you, now, knowing what you know now, what would you tell somebody that has that same objection, and using their exact words and phrases? So kind of leveraging as much as possible the happy clients, and be able to take their messaging, their language, and kind of use that directly towards prospects makes a big difference in terms of getting people over the line, signing up for those 10, 20, 30K type of programs really easily. And again, this is one of those objections that people might not want to call out. They're not going to tell you that my situation is super unique, or I feel like a special snowflake. What they're going to tell you is that, hey, I don't have the resources for it. It's not the right time for me. Like, any number of reasons out there. But again, it usually comes back to like, I'm not sure that this coach and expert can help me in my unique, very special situation. And if you can knock that down, build up that belief along the way, it's going to make it a lot easier. I know for a lot of you, high ticket sales is super, like one of the biggest objections is kind of price. So actually, I'll cover that in a future video of how I kind of cover that again, even before you get to the offer. How can we start to build the belief that prices, again, if they're spending 10, 20, 30K and maybe they don't have that in their account right now, how can we motivate them so much that they find those resources, they get a loan if they need to, or ask a friend, or get some kind of investment along the way? How can we build that up to make it so that even if you have a 30K type of price tag, that's not going to blow people away, especially if you can solve their problem, get the solution that they're looking for, all those kind of things. Like if you market it in the right way, if you pre-sell it in the right way, people will find those resources. They will, they will do anything that they can to solve that bleeding neck problem that they have along the way, whether they have to get a loan or any number of things. So in a future video, I'll cover how I handle kind of pricing and putting it in the right perspective and presenting it in the right way along the way, because I know that's an objection that a lot of you face along the way. But I would tell you to also focus on, again, the special Snowflake objection that I talked about today, because again, whether you know it or not, it might be the reason that people are coming back to you and saying, hey, I just can't afford it. But maybe price isn't as much of an issue as just kind of that feeling that my unique situation may or not be a right fit for this coach or expert. So hope this was helpful. Whatever platform you're watching on, hit that like button. Certainly helps these videos get in front of more people. And if you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. Let me know in the comment below how you've addressed some of these objections as you have faced off either on sales calls or like more in my process. Even if you're going and using DMs or email, how do you answer this objection for people, for your specific audience along the way? And with that, I'll see you in a future live.